Howdy folks, just trying to still play with the lighting and everything else. I don't like the lighting very much in here at this time of day, but I'm not going to put the those two lights on either. This is just natural light from the window. America's really been over for quite a while, so don't be too dismayed, because it's a done deal. We turned our back on Yahweh, and as a result, we're suffering all of the curses for disobedience that are in the Bible. We are the real deal. We in America who settled this continent are the real people of the book. We're actually the Israelites in dispersion. Yes, the northern house of Israel, generally speaking, 10 tribes, but we have all 12 tribes here. And so the same thing you need to realize is that this country that you're worshiping in the Middle East is not Israel. And so I'm going to try to prove that to you. I also am hoping to be able to spit out the size of this beast that we're dealing with. Because you need to know something. Yes, I get angry. Yes, I want to strike out. But I cannot do it. And the reason I can't do it is because Yahweh says straight up, He's the one that's going to repay. He's the one that's going to settle the accounts. He's going to take care of it. And for me to strike out would be like saying Yahweh doesn't exist. So I'm not going to be doing that. Besides that, I know we're all connected pretty tightly at this point. And I figured Yahweh's got better justice to administer than I could ever come up with. What's an Idumean? An Idumean. The number one example of an Idumean is the only time in the Bible that the word Idumean isn't mentioned that I can think of. There might be some other mentions, but the one in particular was in reference to that baby killer, Herod the Great, was an Idumean. Idumean is the right way to say this, Idumean. It's the Greek word for that group that he came out of. In other words, they fall into the category of Revelations 2:9 and 3:9. They say they are Jews and are not. They say they are Jews but are not. And you need to understand, this is spelled out right in the Bible. So Herod the Great was an Idumean running Israel at the time of Christ's birth, Yeshua's birth. And he didn't like sharing power, or even the prospect of sharing power, so he wanted to kill the child as soon as possible. Now, it's important that you understand where the Idumeans come from. But it's also important you know where they end up and go to. So basically what happened is that the Bulgar up in Khazaria converted to a religion that was different than the religion his neighbors had. If he had converted to either of the two religions that were surrounding him, the other one would have attacked him. So he wanted to be neutral. So he decided to convert to Judaism. About 700 AD, 800 AD. You need to understand, the Jewish faith is really a new faith. It's about 400 AD when they finally got it written down and spelled out. So it does not predate your Christianity. And I still have a problem with that name Christian, because it's a slur. It's a racial slur. That's what the pagans and Romans called them. Oh, look at those poor Christians. They only have, did you know that they only have one God? I mean, how much poverty do they live in? And how much can they tolerate? I mean, just, could you imagine that? Only one God? And we have all these gods that we can worship, that will give us blessings for all kinds of things. I like the fact that all the religions in the world boil down to two. There is the Mystery Babylon, the religious systems that came out of that, and all of these organized religious systems are associated with that. All of them have been tainted by it. The only way to avoid it is to sit on your butt at home and read the Bible for yourself and let the Bible interpret itself. There's no sense bothering to go to Sunday school or go learn the catechisms or any of that, because those are man-made traditions. This is not what's in the Bible. They contradict what's in the Bible. They do that purposely because they all come out of the first pope, who was actually Simon the sorcerer of Acts 8, I believe. The Bible's more than an arm's length away from me, so I won't bother going to it. But Simon the sorcerer was also known as Simon Petar. He was a Peter priest, a Mesopotamian penis worshiper, basically. And what you need to understand is that Judaism and Hinduism actually are quite firmly related, and the Hindu religion definitely predates the Jewish faith. But what do we find out when we go over there and look at the Hindus? They're just starting to discover their religion. They're just starting to discover their holy sites. And when you go into those and you look at them carefully, you'll see Shiva. He's being delivered in a spacecraft, a capsule, if you will. And if you back up and look at the overall sheathing of the capsule, the shape of it, you realize the guy's lying in a giant phallus. It's a penis worshipping religion. And so there's only two faiths, and that's why all this stuff appears to get a bit confusing, because the stories are so much the same, but yet slight differences. And that really throws us off quite a bit. I think the thing that throws me off more than anything else is I feel like we got strapped with a religion that's hobbled us. I think that the Jewish committees that published the Schofield Reference Study Bible in particular were intent upon giving us a religion that would require us to bow down and worship the Jews. That's what's happened to America. 1 year ago, I was busy cashing in some of my assets in order to buy a motorhome. And the only one who was willing to give me a good price on my gold was a Jewish fellow, a little guy. He was a nice guy. I think he treated me fairly in that. It was a little odd sleight of hand stuff, so he might have nicked me for $100 bill. I just don't know. But we did it, and I went and looked at motorhomes. He was also looking because their rabbi had ordered them to buy all of the guns and ammunition they could get their hands on. So, of course, I'm telling him, I got some fine bolt-action rifles and revolvers. I want to sell. No. He doesn't want any of that stuff. Not that old-fashioned stuff. He wants semi-automatic with the normal capacity magazines, for which are 30 rounds. He doesn't want no 5-shot revolver at all. He doesn't want a single-shot bolt action at all. He wants something that they can defend themselves with. Now, why did the rabbi, put out that order? It's because the rabbis get the inside dope. It's just like the Roman Catholic priests, in particular the Jesuit priests. They get the inside dope as well. They know what's going to be happening in these other countries years before the rest of us know. Because this is part of the big plan, the big worldwide effort. So we've all been deceived. And I think it's important you realize that Herod the Great, being an Idumean, was important. Because you need to realize that the people that are running the planet today are fakes. They're not real God-fearing Jews. They're not. They tend to be, one of them, Prime Minister David Ben-Gurion, was a practicing Hindu. We have been slated for extermination. We've been judged. There's no backing off of this. It's going to happen. And not only that, it's our own people here in the country that are going to initiate this nuclear war. Yeah, they're convinced that we can win it, and they're convinced that everybody's going to be happy afterwards and live happily ever after. Oh, no, no, no. It's not going to be that way at all. It's going to be real bad. As a matter of fact, there's going to be an exodus out of the north that's so big, the exodus out of Egypt will never be mentioned again. Why is there going to be an exodus out of the north? It's going to be polluted with nuclear waste. It's going to be a hot zone. It's not going to be inhabitable. It's not going to be safe. Definitely not safe for the children. No future. Will there be a pocket or two? Maybe, but the odds are that over time, they're still going to get dosed up. And if you're not sure about whether or not the Bible tells us this, then remember that Yahweh says, as Sodom and Gomorrah and her neighbors were to me, so you are to me. In other words, Yahweh's judged us and is going to nuke us, hellfire and brimstone, just like he did with Sodom and Gomorrah and their neighbors. So that is our judgment. We have no control over our country. There's no representation. Even those who are supposedly our representatives all have handlers. They all tend to be atheistic Jews. Just the way it is. Now, I really don't like the idea of people going after the Jews wholesale. I think it's the wrong approach. My approach, my preference, is that we give notice to the Jews. You clean up your ranks. You take care of your problem. And we sit back and we let them do it, and we support them in doing it. And if they don't want to do it, then we have to step in. But that's my same attitude towards any of these so-called minorities or races or whatever you want to call them. They need to clean up their own ranks. They can administer justice better. They can control their own people better. They can return to the good status they had previously once we empower, especially the black male, the black father. Once we empower him and take away the power from these females, they're going to be competing to see who can get and keep a man, which is the way things should be. The idea of marrying the government doesn't work too good. And we need to chop this government down in size anyway. It's not legal to have federal welfare. And we need to get rid of the Department of Education. Do you think that they turn out a good product? I don't think so. I don't want to fund that whatsoever. So what is the federal government doing, putting the screws to the rest of us, dictating what's going to be taught and not taught? They should be banned completely from doing anything in education, even at the level of universities and colleges. Maybe research funding, but I don't think so at this point. I think we need to withdraw all funding and let them dry up and blow away and let some people start private universities. Or do what the South did. They shipped their boys and girls abroad to the nice cities of Europe to go to school in much better schools with much better teachers, getting a far better education. And they made more money than the North did. The North was jealous because the richest state in the South, Mississippi, the average per annum income was 3 times the highest income earning state in the North. 3 times more than the highest. You can't see the beast system. It's too big. You have to back way up. You have to actually get a bigger, better view so that you can realize that it's all intertwined. You wonder why these corporations are so woke and they insist on doing stuff that makes them go broke. Well, they have interlocking corporate boards. The same people serve on their corporate boards and direct things. Now, that's not a good thing. And so they're told what they're going to do, right down to the point where they're told to mix up their food products in ways that shorten our lives. That's all I'm going to say. YouTube will get upset if I say much more. And of course, we buy into that because we kind of like that horrible fast food, cheap food, that horrible rot gut stuff that they sell us on all the time. Some of it's comfort food for us when we're stressing. It's really, really big. Even these insurance companies are in on the rackets. Before the California fires, remember Loving, California, in the middle of California, popping up in flames? Well, one of my former insurance company canceled all homeowners policies, including fire insurance. I think it was 3 weeks or 6 weeks ahead of the event, ahead of the fire. Wow, imagine that. They had the insight to know when to drop people so they wouldn't have to pay a lot of money out. And you've got a medical complex, which is the number one killer of us all, that's really busy shortening our lives, treating us horribly. I mean, look at what happened on the last plague, pandemic, or whatever you want to call it. They are absolutely horrible, and they should not be given the monopoly they have. And I know you think, well, everybody's entitled to health insurance, Dr. Kidd. That's not health insurance. It's not insurance at all. It's a benefits program where they dictate what the benefit is. And even if there's something better for you and your doctor knows it's better for you, you can't do it because the health insurance company won't approve it or pay for it. And they don't care if this other inferior medicine makes you stroke out. You have to have that clinical failure before they'll put you on the good stuff. And the only industry that's really stayed honest throughout all this has been the life insurance people, because they have to pay out. And so they want people to understand their losses and what it's costing them. So the life insurance people have been very honest. Everybody else, we're all liars and thieves. And we're dealing with murderers at the helm, and we're supporting murderers abroad. It's just horrible. But America has been judged. We are going to be nuked. That's all there is to it. Oh, by the way, how long do you think it's going to take before the first nuke that we set off goes off and the last nuke gets sent our way? 72 minutes. So you might as well go outside and watch the light show and enjoy it. Put some sunglasses on. Protect yourself a little bit. Enjoy it while you can, because the radiation sickness and the toxicity is just going to be horrible here. All of those Tesla cars with the cobalt in the batteries, when the cobalt becomes irradiated, it stays toxic for 300,000 years. It's more toxic than the uranium and plutonium by a long shot. Elon Musk never should have been allowed to build that kind of battery. So, got to stay away from those, because if they're irradiated, it's poison for 300,000 years. Another problem is that all of these nuclear facilities are all marginal. It's going to be a lot of meltdowns, a lot of bad stuff going on. So that's another problem we have. And of course, the grid will go down, the power will be out, communications will be gone, transportation, getting food, getting fuel, It's not going to happen. And the country has been set up with enough troops inside of it, enough foreign troops to take us out completely. So they are going to do it. That's why this war is picked up in the Middle East, is to sucker us into it so the rest of the world can go after us, because we're supporting those homicidal maniacs there. Bibi is Idumean. That's right. He's Idumean for sure. Not all of them are Idumeans. Some of them are actually half-breeds. And we have the same problem with the black population, because the slave masters on the ships took liberties all they wanted, and they fathered a lot of children. And unfortunately, those were a lot of Idumeans. The Idumeans owned the ships and ran the ships. So you need to understand, we've been dealing with this enemy, living with these predators, with these parasites for a long, long time. And the time is running short. It's running out. So they're gonna help get us nuked, because they don't want us taking the power away from them. And people are waking up so fast right now. They realize that Israel is busy projecting their stuff on the other party and using it to justify the genocides that they're committing. I don't even want to see a two-party state. We never should have allowed that country to be created to begin with. Should have stayed Palestine. I think that's what's going to become in the near future, is Palestine. But I also think that at this rate, they're totally going to get obliterated over there. And who are the biggest troublemakers? Why, it's the Americans, of course. The Americans have dual citizenship because they're also Jews. They go over there and decide they're going to shoot up the bad guys, not realizing that they're a bad guy themselves. The same thing happened in Russia with the Bolsheviks. Those Bolsheviks weren't local, homegrown. They came out of Manhattan. That's right. You need to realize it doesn't matter who becomes president. Both of these yahoos are going to support the Federal Reserve System and the further enslaving of us. We are also scheduled to have a civil war just before the big missiles break out. So it's going to happen. I mean, as my brother from South Africa tells me, John, don't make yourself sick over this. He just ended up in the ICU. So he's always in charge. You know, I'm not making any particular plans except to go off and be by myself. People are crazy, and that's all there is to it. So I am just going to be off and by myself, and visit friends, and that's about the gist of things. I wish you could see the bigger picture and understand these are interlocking corporations. And when it feels like you're being targeted or you're being set up for this loss or that loss, actually, it's quite often true that behind the scenes, that's exactly what's being done. Somebody's calling for you to lose your assets and to be set up. So that's what they do. My advice, don't talk to law enforcement. Whatever you do not talk to a federal agency at all. Don't work with them. There's nothing that you owe them. They owe you, but they're never going to repay you. Yeah, I guess that's a little bit better on the reflection. Yes, the air conditioner's running on low. It's going to be much more quiet here about the end of this week or next week. I'm updating parts as best I can to take care of things. What would I like you to do? I'd like you to back up and look at the bigger picture and realize all of these other religions, all of these religions that we have going on that are formal, are all man-made tradition. Not only that, they're all sitting, they all have a seat at the table in the capital of Babylon. In Kazakhstan, that would be Astana. And so all of them are no good. They do not read the Bible and take Bible truths to heart. The Bible should be read more literally and more historically. Only afterwards should it be taken symbolically, metaphorically. So all of this stuff has been known for a while, and it's been set up, and it's in motion. I don't think that we can do anything to stop it or change things. Except if we repented of the violence in our hands, and we put on sackcloth, and we fasted and prayed, and appealed to Yahweh by his name. I think there's a good chance that Yahweh might relent and repent of the evil he's had planned for us. It's happened before in history. I'm hoping we get one more shot at being good. We have screwed up so badly that you just need to look at the staffs that these presidents appoint, and you will see that they're punctuated with people that hate our country. They're punctuated with people that have dual citizenships, dual loyalties. They're predominantly staffed by the Edomites. The Edomites came out of Mount Edom, also known as Mount Seir. They're descendants of Esau. Esau married two women who were the descendants of Cain. So he's from the fallen line. He's from the bad line. So I know you think that it's just a little quaint story and it's not real. It's real, all right. It's real. And this place has been set up like clockwork, and something's going to happen. If we're fortunate, then maybe we might get a moment of salvation. Very large moment of salvation. But I don't think any of it's going to be easy. The problem is we let Bibi drag us into this war that he's starting. We sent over a carrier group, and they sent over the Marines. So my question is, how many Marines do they have to sacrifice in order to justify this war? They're sacrificial lambs. That's all they are. They're not going to be putting enough Marines in there to even defend each other. They're sending them over there to get them slaughtered. Then they have an excuse and reason to go to war. So that's what Bibi's heading us for. And he wants us to go to war with Iran. And the Biden administration did not realize what was going on until the Edomites got out of hand. And the Pentagon had to take some authority back from them. Man. I get very uncomfortable thinking about this. It's not comforting at all. However, we know that there's going to be a big exodus. Some of it to the promised land, but I think a lot of it's to the lands that were ours to begin with, like South Africa. We're going to take it back and get it back. This time, I hope we have learned our lesson and we don't allow the people in there to work as our slaves. What a mistake that was. We should not have any of those different species among us throwing us off like that. The Democrats are not waking up in time to save their race. That's okay by me. I really think they should be made illegal anyway. Especially after what they did in the last election, they should be made totally illegal. All right, folks. You know, the best thing I can tell you is that we need to return to the government structure our founders gave us. And it's kind of hard to do unless there's a resolve and unless we agree to it. And I see no way of surviving short of doing that, which means we throw the legislators out, all of them, the senators and the congressmen, and we elect constitutional senators, constitutional congressmen. There's a lot more to this. Look at my other videos for my strategic intervention on reclaiming America. I'm hopeful. How about you? May Yahweh bless.